I'm Jared. He's Brandon. We are on the road to WrestleMania as this is the Heel of the Face podcast. And, my opinion on the road to the WrestleMania and the build so far are...
It stinks. It stinks.
But there's some good news. Impact Wrestling reached their all-time low when it comes... Oh, for Impact Wrestling, I guess.
It stinks.
That stinks too. So we'll talk Impact Wrestling and how they're reaching an all-time low when it comes to television ratings. We'll talk the road to WrestleMania. We'll talk Meltzer giving a match at Fastlane 5 stars. Can you believe it? That and much more. He's Brandon. I'm Jared. This is the Heel of the Face podcast.
Fans celebrate with me from Rome to Rochester.
Bad Luck seems to be my middle name. They might as well tag me up with my buddies from Syracuse.
So another edition of the Heel to the Face podcast is on the air. You can find him right to the right of me on Twitter at Icebreaker21, myself at K-Rock Jared, and most importantly, you can find the show at Heel to the Face. Make sure if you're watching on YouTube that you subscribe to get notified of all of our episodes. We got a lot to talk about this week on the road to WrestleMania. We are less than 2 weeks away, and well, in normal world, we'd actually be even less than that. I mean, WrestleMania was originally scheduled to be this Sunday, and in most years, it's about April 1st through April 4th. It got pushed all the way back till April 10th this year. So in a typical year, by the time WrestleMania does happen, all the previous WrestleManias, calendar-wise, will have already happened.
Yeah.
I mean, the latest WrestleMania up until now, I think, was MetLife Stadium in 2013. That was April the 8th. So
yeah, it's a little bit later, but obviously we're in not so normal times still. So you know what? It's going to be an interesting week coming up because we got 2 nights NXT, 2 nights WrestleMania. I know we talked about that last week, but it's coming. I mean, whether you like it or not, it's going to be happening very soon.
So this week in the world of professional wrestling, we talked about how we thought at this time we would have the WrestleMania card all sewn up or pretty close to it. Do you think we're pretty close to having a WrestleMania sewn up card? We have about 6 matches filled right now, a bunch of other matches in the works. What do you like so far on the road to WrestleMania? What do you not like?
What do I not like? That's a long list. I mean, it's
Did Fastlane satisfy you and really whet your appetite for WrestleMania?
I mean, I will say this. I did like how Fastlane played out. I had very low expectations for the show itself. And I think you were referring to a 5-star match with Dave Meltzer. And I haven't seen the Meltzer thing. You know how I feel about Meltzer. We can talk about that on a whole different one show, an hour worth of a podcast. But I think the 5-star match you're referring to, I could be wrong. I'm going to say Roman Reigns and Daniel Bryan.
Roman Reigns, Daniel Bryan, a very good match. It ended up being controversial as we'd expect. Pretty much, that's the only thing I think came out of Fastlane. Literally a full pay-per-view, and the only thing I feel that came out of it was that we now kind of know what kind of match we're going to get at WrestleMania, even though the fact that hasn't even been Mania. Right now it just says Roman Reigns versus Edge, and for some reason I think we got to wait till SmackDown before they officially will make this a triple threat match. But that's the only thing we got out of this. Drew McIntyre and Sheamus, I thought, put on a pretty good match, but
that was good.
That had no implications for anything going forward. I thought maybe Bayley and Sasha would win the tag belts and be unified fighting each other. Instead, they're going to be divided fighting each other, but either way, they're fighting each other. That's pretty much it that we got out of Fastlane.
Yeah, I mean, for what it was, I mean, I'm not surprised that Daniel Bryan and Roman Reigns put on a good show. Let's be honest, Daniel Bryan, he doesn't get a lot of credit because he does so many great things, and he makes everybody look good. I mean, Roman Reigns is on fire anyways, so the ingredients were there. The thing I like about Daniel Bryan, he's not just a tech-savvy individual. He could tell a great story, and, there were so many, it was a roller coaster in that match. You didn't know where you're going. When he put on the Lavelle lock, I was like, whoa, this Lavelle lock is going to, Roman was looking pretty, looking like he was pretty vulnerable there, and you don't normally see Roman Reigns in this, in this storyline being very vulnerable, and it showed that Daniel Bryan can still go, and watching that match it's a microcosm of how he's always been. He always puts on 4 5-star matches in my book, anyways. Doesn't matter who he wrestles; they're always good matches. But I really hope we have more Daniel Bryan going forward. I'm curious to see what's next, I should say. What's next for Daniel Bryan? That's going to be something to watch.
So, in the intro to the show, I said the build of WrestleMania, a lot of it stinks. And one thing that I definitely think stinks is the fact that we had to come to terms with the fact of a match we were going to get at WrestleMania. We came to terms and we just said, you know what? All right, I guess we're getting this match at WrestleMania. And I got on board with it because what else can you do? It's like the grieving process. You hate it at first and then you just get used to it.
Braun and Shane?
No, not Braun and Shane.
Wow.
This is one that the WWE said you thought you were going to get this, and we're going to swerve you and give you something even worse. So the grieving process starts all over again. Bad Bunny and The Miz in a one-on-one match. I was fine. I guess I became fine with it that we were going to get a tag team match. But now it's made a one-on-one match, which I'm even less interested in, and got to start the grieving process all over again because you have Damian Priest, John Morrison, two decent wrestlers, more importantly, wrestlers, not celebrities, on the sidelines. And the whole reason I was getting okay with this being a tag team match is I said, you know what? Those other guys are going to carry the load, like AJ Styles is going to carry in that match with Omos. And now it's a one-on-one match. Yeah, and I'm not down with that at all.
I honestly thought you were going in a totally different direction. You know what? That match is so bad for me. I forgot it was even on the card. I'm not going to lie to you. As much as I love what The Miz does, he offers a lot of different opportunities for WWE to cash in on different things. He's the kind of guy where he can literally, you tell him to do something. He's the guy, like WWE says, all right, Miz, I need you to jump through a ring of fire. Okay, I'm going to do it the best I can. That's just what he does. I mean, that's The Miz. I mean, I don't know how he really feels about this whole Bad Bunny thing, but from all accounts, Bad Bunny has been, I know he's an entertainer, but he's been working in the PC. There's a little bit of interest, not much, but a little bit.
There's more interest if it's a tag team match, because if for some reason Bad Bunny can't show up, and perform to the level of The Miz, which he probably won't, there's people like John Morrison and Damian Priest in there to save the day. The problem is they're still going to be there, but now they're just going to be outside interferences. I'd be better if they're actually involved in the match instead of just waiting to see how they affect the outcome.
I will say this. I do want to see what happens with Bad Bunny, because supposedly he's been doing some decent work for the limited. I know he's been doing it for a short time at the PC. There's only so much you can accomplish from an in-ring perspective, in a short time. I mean, the trainers are only going to be able to do as much as they can. But what I will tell you is what Pat McAfee taught us all is if you have enough ability and you're willing to put in the work even in a short time, you can make a decent match. I am not saying he's going to do Pat McAfee things.
Well, and Pat McAfee didn't go out there one-on-one. Well, he did go out there one-on-one in the first match, but I'm thinking of War Games where he went out there with a group.
Well, of course, that's the way they should be protecting Bad Bunny in this case.
Yes,
because when these normal tag team style matches, when you have celebrities, the point is
Snooki was a part of a tag team.
You protect the celebrity. You let the pros do what the pros do.
Yeah,
that's it.
Like I said, this would be great. Even going back as far as WCW being the innovator of this celebrity nonsense, when they used to have, I watched it pretty recently, Jay Leno, Karl Malone, Dennis Rodman, those guys all fought in WCW rings literally in the same summer of 1998, but it was Hulk Hogan with Dennis Rodman, Diamond Dallas Page with Karl Malone. Like, you didn't just put the two, Hulk Hogan versus Karl Malone.
Yeah,
that's the thing too.
Yeah.
We were literally just talking about a month ago. You forget The Miz isn't just anybody. He is the most recent champion. So again, this guy, this is one of those wrestling scripted. How do you know wrestling scripted? Because for some reason they think that it would be an even fight. Even the face announcers are even talking about, is Bad Bunny in the realm of somebody who literally just was the champion of this company? Even the faces are like, Bad Bunny bit off more than he could chew.
But here's the thing. It goes back to what I was just saying about The Miz. If you tell Miz to jump through a ring of fire, he's going to do it. He's a company man. And you know what? How many former champions, especially within the last, few weeks, are on the road to WrestleMania? They're, oh, hey, you know what? We're going to throw you in a match with a celebrity. Like if you said that to Bobby Lashley, he'd say, yeah, I'm just not going to show up. I'll take my bag and go home. I'm not saying he's not professional, but most champions won't go above and beyond and be a company man through and through, even if it's not a good look for you as a champion or a past champion. The Miz does that. And I give him kudos for that. I'm just wondering what's really going to happen here. Is it just going to be like, are they going to make this into a, where you can hit each other with chairs, like a no DQ match? Like, you're not going to have Bad Bunny put on a technical clinic. If it does happen, I will be very surprised. I don't see that happening.
Yeah. Another match at WrestleMania that was made this week, Charlotte Flair apparently is out against Asuka, a match we all thought we were going to see. Now it's Rhea Ripley versus Asuka, but there's conflicting reports. Ric Flair says that Charlotte will be out for WrestleMania. Andrade, her actual boyfriend who doesn't work for WWE anymore, it took a few weeks for it to be official, but It is now official. He doesn't work for WWE anymore. He says that she should be back pretty shortly. So what do you think? Are we getting a triple threat match at WrestleMania? I just can't See, so Charlotte is on the virtual meet and greet schedule, so she'll be a part of WrestleMania some way.
Sure.
We'll get to that in a few minutes, but I just can't see with the star power that we're lacking at this year's WrestleMania, how even if she's cleared the day before, you don't have Charlotte on that card.
Yeah, Charlotte's money. I mean, she always has been. She's the
when you don't got Brock and you don't got Goldberg, and you
got to have Charlotte. Charlotte. I mean, here's the thing. From all accounts, I even heard that from what I've been reading, that Charlotte will be back on SmackDown this week. So, I mean, because the COVID protocols, she's in that window where she can, I think the first day she can clear by all accounts, is Friday. That's what I keep seeing and keep hearing. And Andrade said, the way Andrade said it, it's kind of in that window. So my thing is, does she interject herself on SmackDown's title picture?
I really hope she doesn't do that, because that seems to be because then we're going to literally have the 2 Royal Rumble winners who had one-on-one matches essentially set in stone for about 3 months now, literally get derailed with about a week to go to WrestleMania.
It's WWE's booking, though. You know how that goes. But I will say this. What I would like to see is maybe and I know it's so short because we're so close to WrestleMania, maybe they do another match with Bayley. I don't know. I mean,
because Bayley currently isn't on the card right now. I would like to see Charlotte in the match for the Raw Championship with Asuka, Rhea Ripley. 2 people she's fought at WrestleMania. So those 3 talents together, I think, would be great. I think Sasha and Bianca, they've been hyping that up for months and months and months.
I want to keep it singles.
Just keep it the way they've been hyping it, essentially.
Keep it a singles match.
Yeah, keep it the way that that's the one match. I think that was the first match on the WrestleMania card. That's like the first match that we knew was going to happen at WrestleMania. And it's funny because everyone says this WrestleMania, some people say it's lacking star power. I'm one of those. Some people say that they got a lot of homegrown talent. And I'm fine with a WrestleMania that's got a lot of the homegrown talent. The problem is it doesn't have the homegrown talent in the way that I would like. I know wrestling fans, we always complain. But here's the thing.
Everything.
But look at NXT right now. If you had some of those matches, because those are your homegrown talent right there. So I'm not, if you said, okay, Brock Lesnar and Goldberg and Kurt Angle and Triple H, they're not going to be on the WrestleMania card this year. But Finn Balor and Karrion Kross is going to be on the WrestleMania card. Adam Cole and Kyle O'Reilly is going to be on the WrestleMania card. Homegrown talent. They're from NXT. That couldn't be any more homegrown, I guess, than those guys. Then, yes. Then I would be perfectly... I think this would be the best WrestleMania to my recollection if you, like I said in previous podcasts, you took 4 of those matches off the TakeOver card and you made them on the WrestleMania card. So one night you got the WWE Championship, the Women's Championship, an NXT Championship, an NXT Tag Team Championship, and then Shawn and Braun.
I mean, it's not a terrible look. I mean, I think we've said this before on previous episodes. I think this is the worst time for WWE to have a 2-night takeover, 2-night NXT takeover at WrestleMania week. I don't think it's a great idea. At first, I was on board with it, and I mentioned that on previous episodes. But the way the card is evolving, I think you got to scrap NXT, don't you? I mean, don't you?
Yeah, I mean,
make it incorporate it in some way.
I feel like WrestleMania would be grand if they incorporated, because it would literally be giving people what they want. What I mean by that is, the whole AEW audience out there likes the non-WWE aspect of wrestling. They like the more gritty, the Finn Balors, the Adam Coles. That's what they look for in AEW. So if you mix that in with the main guys of WWE, then AEW's got nothing on WrestleMania.
No, they don't.
Because right now, to be honest, and I've never said this before, if you could have tickets to TakeOver or WrestleMania right now, and I'm literally somebody out there who would never want tickets to TakeOver over WrestleMania in any other year, this year I would actually probably... And it's funny because nobody's going to TakeOver this year. That's not an actual thing that's happening.
Yeah, that's the
thing. Yet that
yeah.
card is stacked. That card is, to me, better than WrestleMania. And normally, I like WrestleMania because I like the pomp and the circumstance and all, and the part-time guys and that whole thing.
Of course you do.
But WrestleMania is lacking that this year. So literally, it's just the regular Raw guys versus the regular NXT guys, and you got to take the regular NXT guys.
Well, yeah. I mean the NXT card is the way it's evolved is by far the best thing going.
I mean, the championship matches at WrestleMania look cool. Don't get me wrong.
Sure.
But yeah, if I had the choice of taking out AJ and Almas versus The New Day and throwing in Finn Balor and Karrion Kross, or Adam Cole versus Kyle O'Reilly, or even that Cruiserweight Unification match is now going to be a ladder match.
That would be fun because there'll be some good spots.
Yeah. Or have, I would swap out the NXT Women's Tag Team Championship match at WrestleMania than watching where we're going to see, Lana teaming up with, who knows, Naomi, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
I would rather see the NXT, that to me is more WrestleMania card worthy.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest, I'm not really juiced off for WrestleMania this year. I know you're going, I know you're, I hope you have a good time, of course, but I'm just not juiced up about the prospects of the 2-night event it's coming up. I'm not excited. Like, there's a few matches I'm like, yeah, I'm ready. But like 2 nights NXT, 2 nights WrestleMania, I think they have just enough to do one night, one show. Honestly, if you're doing just Raw and SmackDown.
And so I was looking at last year's WrestleMania card, and they had about 8 matches a night.
Yeah.
And so far it looks, and that's not counting the pre-show. That's not, so with 9 matches, I guess, with the pre-show. So they had 8 matches a night. And looking back at it, one of those matches, Edge and Randy Orton, went for 40 minutes. So right now, I see no matches on this card that go for 40 minutes. So far, they've got about 3 matches scheduled per night. And none of those matches, and maybe the triple threat with the Roman Reigns could go pretty long. But again, my major thing is, and if you don't know this, that they've got to put it all in. And the reason I say that is, tickets for each individual night from WWE. Now, these are floor seats. These aren't ringside seats, but they're floor seats. They're charging upwards of $2,000 per night for a ticket. And if you
pass.
And the cheapest, essentially the cheapest ticket to even get in is about $100 per night. So $100 a night, $2,000 a night for a floor seat per night. Okay. You got to be putting on that. That's almost single regular WrestleMania prices.
Yeah, that's a hard pass for me.
So you can't be putting on a show that is 90 minutes long. You just can't.
Can you do a show that's 2.5 hours long each night?
If you do, it's got to be pretty decent for $2,000. And listen, I understand people have $2,000; they have that money to spend. But I have a feeling, though, that even the people who spent $2,000 on a ticket, where that's not a lot of money to them, they still would be pretty upset if that show ends after 2 hours and 10 minutes, and no matches went over like 8 minutes long.
I mean, that's where we're at, though. I mean, like this card there's going to be so many last minute additions. You're going to see, it's almost like WWE's just throwing the card together at this point. There's a few quality matches, and then it's going to be like a hodgepodge just to make it through 2 nights. I don't know. I mean, I'm hoping they do something. They pull all the stops out, but like, I know we've talked about this, about Undertaker and not coming back, but we were texting like, so does he make the call? Does he call Undertaker last minute and say, hey, Take, you wanna show up? I mean, I don't know if it might be a little too late now because we're really late in the game, but does he call Brock Lesnar? I mean,
what could he have him do though? See, my thing was, if Brock Lesnar was to come out, he would have came out of Fastlane, cost Daniel Bryan, and then we'd have Edge and Roman, Daniel Bryan versus Brock. And I think that would actually be a pretty decent, because we saw it at Survivor Series at one time. Daniel Bryan had to come in there and face Brock, last minute notice against Brock Lesnar. They
could use Brock Lesnar in a situation where it's Bobby Lashley, Drew McIntyre, and then essentially Brock Lesnar cost Bobby Lashley the title. Drew wins the title.
See, I was also thinking about the fact that if Brock Lesnar came out at Fastlane, he could have cost Roman Reigns the title. Been mad that, hey, what is this? Paul Heyman's with what are you doing, Paul Heyman? You betrayed me. You're now with Roman. Kind of put the 2 Paul Heyman guys again. I know we don't want to see Brock and Roman again, but now as Paul Heyman guy versus Paul Heyman guy, that would have some intrigue. And then Daniel Bryan versus Edge for the title.
I want to see Brock Lesnar versus Bobby Lashley. That's if there's one match, and you know me, we've talked about this many times. You were a Brock guy. I am not a Brock fan.
I think it's a little too late for that though. For this year's WrestleMania, maybe SummerSlam.
Not this year. I'm saying you plant the seeds, because Brock, he's a part-time guy. Yeah. You plant the seeds, and you obviously WrestleMania cultivates the entire season, the entire year of wrestling. What better way than one of the big matches at WrestleMania where Brock Lesnar cost Bobby Lashley the match, and then you had this ongoing feud. You build it all the way for next year. You're starting to plan for next year's WrestleMania. And here's the thing: if you take a year to build it, it's going to draw so many people, because it's going to get drawn out. And you have Brock Lesnar,
he's got the Rock effect where he doesn't have to show up. He can just make the match the night after WrestleMania and then disappear again till summertime.
Exactly. They can do he can do the Brock Lesnar schedule. And that's fine. And I don't dislike Brock, as a human being. I think I mean, by all accounts, he's a good dude. I mean, he keeps to himself. He's a good dude, but I'm not a huge fan of, showing up part-time and doing his thing and then just bouncing out. I don't mind it if
I like a little better than Goldberg.
Yeah, Goldberg. That's a whole nother.
He bounces out like a month later.
Well, he just gets his money and collects the check.
Yeah.
And says, all right, the check clears.
Brock at least holds the belt for like 6 months at a time, even if he doesn't show up all the time. Goldberg literally just gets it to lose it next week.
I'm not a fan of it, but if you're going to use Brock the right way and the way he likes to be used, which is I don't want to travel very much, do it this way, where you can build Brock versus Bobby all the way from this year's WrestleMania to next year's WrestleMania, and hopefully by then it'll be a totally packed, venue. And it's not going to be hard to sell out because you build it up for a year. Hopefully at this point, COVID's in the rear view. You can have 100,000 people in this whole year just waiting for that match, Brock versus Bobby. Who doesn't want to see that? Every wrestling fan that I know, if you talk to them, that's the match they want to see. I'm just saying. Tell me I'm wrong.
I know that would be. I wanted to see that pretty much going back to I think playing them versus each other on SmackDown versus Raw 2005.
Yeah, it's a long time coming. I mean, why not do it? Why not do it? I mean, build it for a year. Why the hell not?
So what do you make? Now, I've seen, it's kind of funny because most wrestling sites I follow pick out the most minute things. They could literally change a wording in the poster and they'll make a story about it because, it's just the never-ending news cycle. But yet I've heard nothing about this. I put this out on my personal Twitter. I've heard nobody else kind of also make this acknowledgement, the wrestling news sites. But it's true. WrestleMania last week was scheduled to start the main card at 7 o'clock. This year, it's scheduled to start at 8 o'clock. That's a change. My ticket specifically says that the pre-show starts around 6:30. The main card starts at 7. Normally, when you get a ticket for a wrestling show, it puts 30 minutes before the main card starts. So, like, if you get a ticket for Raw, it'd say 7:30. If you get a ticket for a pay-per-view, it would say 6:30. So my ticket says 6:30 in the implications that the show officially going to start at 7. It wouldn't say 6:30 if the main card's not till 8. So the main card is now at 8, the first pay-per-view starting at 8 since Backlash 2018. I was at that event. It was awful. It was one of the first pay-per-views I went to where people were leaving early because the final match was Roman Reigns versus Samoa Joe in the main event. No title on the line. And it was like 11:15 when people were starting to hit the doors. And that was probably a good indication for WWE to realize at the time, because they were running 5-hour backlashes, that maybe we need to start these up earlier. Because of the COVID, they've shortened up the pay-per-view length.
Sure.
So they could probably go back to 8 o'clock. But
do you do 8 to 11?
I mean, 8 to 10:45, 8 to 10:40, that kind of thing. Because the reason they went back to 7 was because, like when I was at Backlash, it's going on 11:20, 11:30.
I don't like that. I don't like that.
No.
I like, honestly, from a fan perspective, especially, and yes, we record on the East Coast, so like obviously time zones. But why 7 to 10? 7 to 10 is perfect.
Why do you think they moved WrestleMania to 8 o'clock? Do you think that's a way to shorten up the show?
I think it is, yeah. I think it's
so
a way
do you
to
think if
it
it was going to start at 7, they had the plans of ending it like 10:30, 11 o'clock?
Yes.
But now they said, well, we're going to still end it at 10:30, 11 o'clock, but we're going to start it at 8 o'clock.
Well,
so
yeah,
it
because
really solidifies that it's not going to be a 4-hour event where they wouldn't have moved it up.
It's probably going to be close to 3 hours both nights. That's my prediction.
Yeah, you got to believe that this is going to be not a 4-hour night, because if it was going to be a 4-hour night, they would have kept it at 7 o'clock, and they specifically moved it to 8. So they must know something. I don't really like the 8 personally when I'm there, just because I like having the ability to do some more stuff when I got out of there. 10 o'clock, you're on vacation, go hit up a bar, hit up the casino, hit up whatever to do. But now it's going to be closer to midnight, so probably not. But WrestleMania officially this week became 8 o'clock Eastern, 5 o'clock Pacific. I imagine the pre-show is now going to be at 7 o'clock. So moving on, WrestleMania week. Some other things that I think stink. We talked about it last week. The WWE Hall of Fame. Now, I want to preface this by everybody who was announced to be in the Hall of Fame deserves to be there. And frankly, if you don't think they deserve to be there, well, you're probably wrong, just in the sense of there is no deserve to be there. Everybody gets in. Drew Carey's in the Hall of Fame. Kid Rock's in the Hall of Fame. So be it for me to say that Batista's, RVD's, Kane's, Great Khali's don't belong in there. They belong in there.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, there is no belong in there.
But like, what the hell's the point of putting everybody in if you're gonna do it on like Skype or Zoom?
It's not just that it's in front of nobody, but it's also pre-taped. They're going to tape this next week to air the following week. So next week, all Road to WrestleMania stuff is going to be taped. The final Raws, SmackDowns, and the WWE Hall of Fame are all going to be taped before next Monday, because it's their final week in the Thunderdome.
Sure.
Before they move it. So the whole WrestleMania week, other than NXT, nothing's going to be live. That SmackDown's going to be taped. That Raw's going to be taped. The Hall of Fame is going to be taped. And it's taped in 2 different segments. So I don't even know how that's going to essentially work if they were planning on having like the wrestlers in attendance.
Yeah,
I don't think anyone's going to be in attendance.
Yeah, I don't know how this is going to work. And here's the thing that sucks. You know, we talked about it last week. I wanted to see Eric Bischoff inducted in front of fans. I think, you know, growing up in the era that we did, you know, Eric Bischoff deserves that. Like, he has done so much for the business. So, like, and that goes across the board for all of these inductees. Like,
yes.
What the hell?
So RVD is currently still rumored. A lot of people have been throwing out there that he's going to the Hall of Fame, but right now he's still rumored. Batista luckily pulled himself out of it. Thank you, Batista.
Yeah,
because he said he had commitments, but also wants to be in front of fans. Now, here's the thing. Kane and Great Khali. Khali's not going to headline a show. Kane could probably headline a show. Might not, but he still could. The point is, though, somebody tried telling me on Twitter, what was WWE to do? It's a lose-lose situation. Fans aren't going to be happy. And essentially, I disagree with that because fans have no choice but to be happy if they're not paying. Yes, if I was buying a ticket to the Hall of Fame, then I would probably be unhappy with certain inductees or the length of a show. But the fact that nobody is paying to go to this thing, then essentially they could not have a ceremony. Because to be honest with you, the ceremony has kind of just turned into something fun to do while you are at WrestleMania.
Sure.
While you're at, it's kind of like going out to eat. There's some places like the Hard Rock Cafe. They're fun to go to because you're there, but you would never get takeout food from the Hard Rock Cafe.
No, you go there, it's the experience.
Yes.
It's all
so
about
the Hall of Fame to me is something fun to do WrestleMania weekend. It's the experience.
Exactly.
Right.
And here's the thing too. It's a lot of people really like the Hall of Fame. Like they like the fact where you get to see some former stars from yesteryear, like folks that we've grown up with, like, you know, like the Canes, for example. I like that aspect of it. I don't like the fact at this point you're not going to have fans. I just think it's awful.
Essentially,
I don't like
if they just had the 2020 class, even without Batista, who's going to complain? No one's paying to go. If it was a 90-minute show on the WWE network, nobody who is going to complain, because we didn't have one last year, and essentially nobody complained that we didn't have one last year because they understood the circumstances. They understood that if there's not going to be fans there, then what's really the point? It's just like you don't have a virtual access. If I'm not physically there, then I don't go, I'm not going to look at access on the computer. And that brings us to another point, as we could talk about the Hall of Fame, and maybe we'll talk about that a little more next week. Virtual meet and greets for WrestleMania. Yes, WrestleMania week used to pay like $100 to go to access, and then you pay like another $100 to go try to meet your favorite wrestler. But this year, for $125, you can get a 2-minute segment with your favorite wrestlers like Adam Cole, Kevin Owens, Charlotte Flair, The New Day. And listen, we're a podcast, so we can kind of understand the fee if it was like, hey, we're going to use this for a wrestling interview or like an intro for our podcast, an intro for a show. Sure. But seeing they're under WWE contracts, I believe they'll probably be able to do none of that. Your 2 minutes will just be like a, hi, I'm Janice. Nice to meet you. Are you going to win this weekend? And it's just $125. And the best part is it's not even like the Brock Lesnar's, the Goldbergs, the people who are legit celebrities. It's people I've actually shared a bathroom with back in their independent days, like the Adam Coles, the Kevin Owens, the Sami Zayns.
That's an interesting dynamic there.
Yeah, I mean, I literally shared a bathroom one time with Samoa Joe. I actually had to tell him which he was looking for, a specific door or something. I think he was looking for the bathroom, and I was outside of it, and I was pointing him in the right direction at an indie show. There you go. But I mean, I guess that's my point. $125. I'm not really much of a celebrity person where I would even, I guess if it's free and it's available, I'd go meet Adam Cole and get an autograph and a picture. I would probably never pay to do it, regardless.
Yeah.
But I would definitely never pay to do it virtually.
Yeah, I mean that's the new thing, Cameo and whatnot. Like you get these celebrities or people that are just they're YouTube stars. They charge a fee so you can it's like, oh, can you wish my dad a happy birthday, or sing happy birthday to him?
And to me that doesn't seem genuine because you're paying for it. So it's not like they're really wishing you a happy birthday, that kind of thing.
They're like, let me, PayPal needs to clear first.
Okay, we're good. And if you get Virgil, his testicles might be hanging out while he's doing it.
Oh God, don't bring that back up. Oh, God.
But I guess the thing is too, again, you're only getting 2 minutes, so you're not going to be able to interview this person. You're not being able to ask him some serious questions. You're not being able to give him a nice intro for your wrestling show, or if you work in radio like we do, put it on a radio. It's literally just like a meet and greet.
Yeah.
Hey, it's my birthday. Say hi to my uncle. Nice meeting you guys. Next, $125.
Boom, boom. And I mean, it's smart by WWE to do it because there's going to be.
Most of them are sold out, which is crazy.
Well, yeah, because you get people that, pardon the word, I'm probably going to get some heat for this, but you got schmucks that'll pay for that kind of stuff. I don't see the point of it. I mean, that's cool. Do your thing. Spend your money how you want to spend your money. But to me, if I'm going to pay $125, it better be like how we're sitting here right now. I'm shaking your hand. I get to have an actual conversation with you. Yeah. Not, I'm on the Skype or the FaceTime with you.
For 2 minutes, too. You're not getting 30 minutes with these people.
I would never do it.
Yeah. 2 minutes.
No, thanks.
That's 120 seconds you get with them. For $125. So
yeah, no thanks. Hard pass.
Like $5 a second. But we move on to WrestleMania weekend. AEW has announced their very first ever house show. They never had one of these before. And it's going to be the night before WrestleMania in Jacksonville. You can buy combo tickets for the TV show and the house show. They're running their very first house show. Cody Rhodes said in a tweet that they wouldn't, back in January when somebody asked, they'd be in the Tampa area. And they said, we're not going to piggyback off of someone else's event. And well, here they are. Piggybacking off of someone else's event.
Interesting.
Running a house show specifically the night before. Now, let it be known that Jacksonville is 3 hours from Tampa, so it's not like they're in town. There's definitely people who drive out to go see them, but people like myself, I'm not driving 3 hours to go to an AEW show, and then because I'm going to be in the Tampa area, that's a distance, I guess.
Yeah,
so it's not. If they were running a show in Tampa, I mean, that would actually be really cool. I think the attendance would be great. I'm just curious to see how great the house show attendance will be because, again, Jacksonville's 3 hours away.
You get diehards, man. I mean, you get people. I mean, shoot, you get wrestling fans that come to WrestleMania from across the pond.
True.
Or anywhere in the world. But, it can happen. It will happen.
So they're kind of like playing it, kind of safe where they don't want to look like they're infringing on WrestleMania because they're still holding it in Jacksonville, but the time that they're holding it. And as we talked about Impact Wrestling, their pay-per-view Hard Justice or Extreme Hard Justice with Tommy Dreamer, that's going to be 3 o'clock on Saturday. Not at 7 o'clock to all those people who thought Impact was going to go against WrestleMania.
Come on, let's be honest.
And that brings us to our final segment here of the show. And it's all about Impact Wrestling. This week, their lowest rating of 2021, a night that had Kenny Omega on the show, 116,000 watched it. That's an 0.04, making them 143rd out of 150 in the cable ratings for Tuesday night. Now, they have announced they are moving to Thursday nights because NXT is obviously going to be moving to Tuesdays.
We called this, by the way.
Yeah. So they're moving to Thursdays starting next week, or the week after, I'm sorry. They'll be moving. So their first week on Thursday is going against NXT TakeOver Night 2. Good luck with that. But some statistics, and to be honest with you, I was actually a little surprised about it. I was looking at Impact Wrestling and kind of the history and stuff like that. And they used to draw some decent numbers. They used to draw around 1.5 million between the years of 2008 and 2014. They were averaging in the 1.8 million range, which was actually at the time pretty equal to what, like, let's say 2006 time. They were pretty much going up against ECW. Not early ECW when they first came back, but when ECW started to get lame with Matt Hardy as the champion and Bobby Lashley as the champion. Yes. So they went against ECW on Tuesday nights and pretty much went toe-to-toe with ECW.
That's not really saying much.
Yeah, it's not saying much, but
not saying much.
Compared to where they have gone, though. Gone. So they were bringing in around 1 million, 1.5 million. The time when they were doing this, Raw was bringing in 5 million and SmackDown was bringing in 3 million on a week. And now we know that neither of them really do that. But 2014 was their final year on Spike TV. And that's the last time that they even approached 1 million. It was October 2014, their last 1 million
Here's the
views.
crazy thing.
They've only gone downhill since.
They got so much talent on that roster. I mean, you know me, I'm a big Moose guy.
Yeah.
Moose is a guy that, like, you need to be booking at the top of the food chain at Impact. I'm sorry. If you're not doing that consistently, you're just you're a poor booker. Simple as that in my book. So you need to book Moose more.
But will Impact Wrestling, so they now have Kenny Omega. So the question is there really any hope for Impact? Because personally, I don't think so. I think they had a moment as an alternative in WWE back in like 2008. They were a nice alternative for WWE, and they got 1 million. They obviously never competed with Raw or SmackDown, but now that AEW has joined the fold, and I think what AEW did that Impact Wrestling didn't is it started right away on TNT, which Impact Wrestling didn't.
True.
And it started right away with the guys that were really popular in New Japan, the indie guys, the Ring of Honor, the ones that all the Mark fans, I guess, were really clamoring for, which Impact Wrestling didn't do. Obviously, they're going towards the Stings and the big shows now, but AEW started with like the pure wrestling at heart and obviously $1 billion budget. So,
Of course, that helps.
that helped. And now Impact Wrestling, I feel like they were already going downhill before AEW. They were averaging like 300,000 views a week. So Impact Wrestling, they had their better days back couple years ago. And I mean, with AEW around, do you see like Impact Wrestling at best is going to be an NXT for AEW? That's how I look at it.
Yeah, I mean that's what it really looks like at this point. I mean, the unfortunate part is like good wrestlers like Moose, Rich Swann, they'd be better off just getting out of there and going to AEW or WWE. That's
well, I mean, they kind of are. They're still kind of doing the crossover thing.
They have the crossover thing, but
they even have like people like Juice Robinson and David Finlay from New Japan who are their tag team champions right now. I mean, here's the thing. They're
trying. They're trying. I give them that. But.
And here's the thing. They've always had a decent roster. And I chalk this up to more than just wrestling, but I'm huge in the understanding of, I think there's so much brand loyalty out there. I've said this about the NFL. I've said this about baseball. I've said this about every sport, and wrestling is really no different. Yes, they've competed, and yes, they've had some viewers watch it. And yes, people tune in, just like people tuned into the XFL on week number 1. Remember, the XFL drew all those big numbers on week number 1, the original XFL, that is.
Yeah.
And people tuned in probably the new XFL and the new American Alliance of Football to be curious. And we all did that when Kenny Omega showed up on Impact Wrestling for the very first time.
Even I did.
Yes. And they drew 200-something thousand people that night, 250,000, and then right back down, because that's all we're there for is the thing. And WWE plays it really well. We were talking about Bad Bunny at WrestleMania. They know that better than anybody else. Why do you think they keep throwing in these celebrities to get these one-time-a-year eyeballs on it? Sure. But the problem is that's just not sustainable. There's just so much wrestling in the market right now. AEW, they found a way to move into the market. Like I personally thought AEW was going to be a failure at first, just because I just knew the history. I knew Ring of Honor. I knew Impact Wrestling. I just thought it's just those things didn't work. And they found a way to make it work because they went right at TNT. They went right with people that hardcore wrestling fans like. They went right for 2 hours.
$1 billion budget.
Yeah. And I think Impact Wrestling started slow, tried building it up in the middle, and then tried to cheapen out. And I think the same would probably happen to AEW. If AEW goes the route where they ever move to Access TV, where they ever start to moving to like pre-tape shows.
They won't, because Tony Khan's got deep pockets.
Well, let's say he sells it to somebody else, some sports entity.
He won't,
then
though.
it will be in the same boat.
Yeah, he's not going to. Tony Khan's a huge wrestling fan. He's gonna his game plan is it's long term. AEW is a long term thing. I feel like I don't think it's going anywhere.
So I guess my thing is Impact Wrestling, they've got to have something where they just are like, here's our base, 100,000 views a week. That's our base. That's how we base pay. That's how we base all the stuff that we do based off that. And if we get more than that, great. Cool. Then that's a bonus. But we got to base it off of 100,000. We can't expect to be getting 500,000. We can't expect to be competing. It's just not going to happen. It hasn't happened yet. Even when they were drawing the 1 million, that was against a Raw that was 5 million. So it was essentially the same in comparison. So at the end of the day, I just feel like Impact Wrestling, they reached a low this week, but I don't think it'll get lower. I mean, it can get lower, but I just don't think that it will ever be any more watched than Ring of Honor syndication. Ring of Honor syndication, the last ratings I looked that I could find, 2015, they were averaging around 170,000 people on their syndicated wrestling show. I don't know what they average now, but even if AEW ceased to exist, I think that Impact Wrestling it is what it is.
It is what it is. It's a niche. It's a very niche audience, I think.
It's a niche audience.
It's a niche of a niche, honestly.
It's really like, I mean, as a minor league baseball diehard, so there's probably Impact Wrestling diehards out there, but it's one of those things that, like minor league baseball, you like to go and watch it in person, but you don't really watch it on TV. That's how I feel about Impact. I've gone to a lot of Impact shows. They were great. If they were wrestling, in Tampa WrestleMania weekend, I'd hit one up.
Sure.
But watching it every single week on TV, it has nothing to do with the talent.
No.
It just, for some reason, it's just like when a quarterback plays in the Canadian Football League versus the National Football League. Doug Flutie obviously gets more views, even though he's the same guy in one versus the other.
Sure.
That's just how it is. I mean, Rich Swann, more people would watch his match on WWE than they would watch him as the heavyweight champion in Impact Wrestling. Same talent, probably puts on better matches than Impact Wrestling. It's just what it is.
Yeah.
And, I don't know if they've come to this conclusion yet, but I just feel like when we see these things where Impact Wrestling is getting these low ratings, I think the thing where they're mixing over with AEW, I guess the only reason I'm bringing this up is because they're mixing over with AEW and they're trying to do this boosting up Impact thing. And I think that's cool and it's neat, But when it comes to really making AEW or Impact Wrestling a player, I don't think it's doing that. And I don't think it's going to do that.
It never will.
And never will do that. I thought maybe for a week it could, but then we all saw that it hasn't. And that's, I guess that's the perfect sample size. What we learned about Impact Wrestling with Kenny Omega showing up is what we've ever wanted to know, because we always wondered, well, what if they got Kenny Omega? What if they did this? Yeah, I know they had AJ Styles, but what if they had AJ Styles now? We now know our answer. They had Kenny Omega. They had, him show up on Impact Wrestling.
The ratings are what
they've had this crossover with AEW, and the ratings are what they are.
Yep.
So the ratings, even if they got The Rock and Hulk Hogan, they've had Hulk Hogan. And so if they got The Rock and Stone Cold Steve Austin,
it'll be like a stock market chart. It shoots to the moon, as Cameron Grimes likes to say, and then crashes hard.
Yeah, it'll get our curiosity to watch The Rock show up there one week.
Sure.
Because he did show up there to talk about Ken Shamrock getting inducted in the Impact Hall of Fame. But if he showed up there, like to fight somebody for the championship, we'd all tune in. But as soon as Rock was gone, we'd all tune right back out.
Yep.
So that's it for our talk this week about Impact Wrestling. Next week, we got our final end of the week recorded show, and then we'll record a show WrestleMania week. So our final WrestleMania build show, I guess, before our WrestleMania show itself. For Brandon, I'm Jared. This has been another chalked, packed edition of the Heel to Face podcast, and we will see you next week.